This is the podcast of media technology company CS Digital Media, based in the Netherlands but active in more than 10 countries all over the world. A program in which current developments in the field of digital technology, digital marketing, and digital out of home are discussed.
Digital Out of Holland, the podcast of CS Digital Media in the Netherlands, reporting about the state of the market of digital out of home and programmatic developments in our local market in the Netherlands. Let me first introduce myself and my colleagues over here at the table. My name is Radjen from Wilsem, CEO of CSDM. Leon, you're next.
Yes, my name is Leon. I'm working for like 5 years almost for CS Digital Media, and I'm responsible for the sales department.
And I have Sebastian over here.
Hi, I'm Sebastian. I'm from MyAdbooker. I've been working on the programmatic shift of digital out of home since 2012. And happy to be here today.
Well, since English is not our native language, we'll have some perks over here and trying to mix Dutch sentences and translations over here. So if you have any remarks on that, please find us on Instagram. I think our tab is CS Digital Media, and you can leave us a direct mail or a remark over there. But also, I would love to invite you to send out topics you would love to have us discuss over here, which you can pick up and make it as wide as possible.
Or
and anything happens.
Come and join the podcast, maybe.
Yeah. And we will. Do we do like a prize for the best Dinglish?
The Dinglish.
The best Dinglish.
Yeah. So there's no chicken in the house. You mean that? Okay. Yeah. For us, or
I guess you wouldn't.
For the externals to find it. Yeah. Right.
Well, guys, to cover the first topic, I think the global markets know that we have been experimenting with digital out of home and programmatic for like 2014 up to now, and it's spreading widely. What would you guys consider as a difference between the local market in the Netherlands and, for instance, our surrounding markets like the UK, France, Germany? Sebastian.
Well, the Netherlands, it's an old age situation in marketing for the Netherlands. That the Netherlands is always an easy market to introduce new products because it's relatively small, it's wealthy, and it's a quick technological adaptation. So
yeah, we're traders,
early adapters.
Yeah, it's an easy test market. So I think that's something that helps for the Netherlands, but also the digitization of the out of home in the Netherlands has been quite extensive, especially if you look at the easiest example is the highway screens.
Yeah,
because
we have them.
There's
Germany
a lot of digitization on the highways, and so I think that's one element where the Netherlands is very different. That the digitization can be adopted to the full country in a quick pace. And if you look at countries like Germany, where the spread of digital is a lot more
urbanized, it's in
it's
urban,
very urban, but it's too spread out. It's a big country. Same in France, 60,000 digital assets.
Yeah, so the concentration is more in the cities. I mean, Paris, London, Amsterdam, Munich, and so on. You would expect to have more over there, but
yeah, UK is quite big. So as a out of home market, digital out of home market, the UK is very
what's
big.
What's the definition of big? Why is UK out of home so big? Is there any explanation for that?
If you look at London, it's really big.
No, it's not the size, but why is out of home in the UK, like sizing in advertising budgets, bigger than in the Netherlands? For instance, we have like 6%, and the UK is 11 till 14.
Yeah, and
why is that?
The main reason is, the TV is quite expensive in the UK.
So it's pricing.
It's pricing, yeah.
But what happens between the supply and the demand? I mean, although it's not automated or it is automated, what strikes me is that the UK market holds on quite firmly to their traditional way of how demand is built up. Germany seems to switch over because of Streuer over there.
Yeah.
So you always are in need of a challenger who is in the market.
Well, and
playing first row.
And that's the most important. So if we go back to 2014, when we started out with actively getting programmatic off the floor, we started seeing initiatives in the US and in Italy. There was a first adopter in each country. So in the Netherlands, we had CS Digital Media as first adopter. But that already, in the Netherlands, as it's a small country, it already covered a large part of the digital inventory that was then available.
So you need digital only, and you need first movers.
You need the first movers. So in Italy, I think it was Grande Stagioni that started with programmatic in Italy. So
same profile?
Same profile. Digital only, public transport. So that really helped them get a move on the situation.
So the paper digital publishers like Decaux, Exterior, and so on, they took some time because they have the planning cycle. So if you look at the digital only companies, what are the digital only companies can you mention? Is Stroyer one of them?
I don't know.
Stroyer is vastly digital, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is a first mover in that market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, CS Digital Media, of course, is 100% digital.
Yeah,
but
then you. I'm not sure how. It's the focus on digital that's more important. I don't think, if we speak to counterparts in Portugal, for example, it's a very much digitally orientated counterpart, but they.
It's well organized around the big cities.
And it's but you need that threshold. You need to. So Portugal again would be a great opportunity as a country to start programmatic because it's a relatively small country.
mm-hmm.
The digitization has been revamped quite severely lately. So that would be a good market to start in. The German market is more difficult to approach.
What do you mean start for them or in general?
In general, you need.
But it didn't happen over there. It
not yet.
in the Netherlands.
No, exactly. But Belgium, you see, the Belgian market is also very different.
And if we look at the players then coming from the Netherlands, if you look at Digital Out of Home and Digital Out of Holland,
mm-hmm.
we have MyAdbooker, we have Signkick, two companies coming out of the Netherlands. What are the companies we have?
Sage and Archer, Platform 161. So that first adaptation has been very strong, and we've been. So we've been at the forefront from a programmatic perspective, and this is the programmatic perspective. That's not.
You're MyAdbooker, so
it's not about automation. It's about being programmatic. So
is there any difference?
Well, automation is replacing email. Programmatic is being.
Well said.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
Programmatic is a buying method. There's currency involved. It's a
being really automated.
It's fully autonomous. It's not automated. It's autonomous.
Yeah.
I think that's
So are there any other companies coming from the Netherlands? Because this is an ecosystem where supply and demand is organized.
Yeah.
You need that locally, and then these companies try to make that jump over to other markets.
Well, it's interesting because from a data aggregation and DSP side, you got starting to get a lot of movement. The Canadian companies have been quite Campsite,
Broadsign,
Hivestack, Broadsign. So that's the Canadian part. So they've been investing heavily in programmatic, and also for them the presence in the Netherlands is highly important because this is the
highly adoptive market.
It's the most evolved market for this.
And what about the recent merger of Signkick and LiveDOOH? Because that means we have a German Dutch combination running around the globe. What's your perspective on that one?
Well, I think it's on the yield and scheduling setup of an out-of-home publisher.
But do you think it's a logical? Tooling. Do you think it's a logical merger? Because the obvious question after that is, what other companies can be picked up or will be picked up or merge? What's your prediction on that?
I have some.
He's afraid.
I'm reserved in saying because there's there's companies that I would like to pick up for
Really?
what that's concerned. But that's
are they stock listed? Because that's
not yet. That's the good thing. And so, but no, I'm not sure what the.
So what do you
market
see as a movement? Is there any integration on SSP level, supply side, or is there integration on DSP level? Because Platform 161 joined another online company, has been picked up over there. So there is integration.
You know, there should be more integration on, you know, the DSP. I feel the DSP side has been evolved more than the SSP side.
Yeah, because they
don't
have the burden of managing assets.
And that's
quite a burden.
So there is a lot of movement there. There's a lot of new entries into that market as DSP market. So I think at some point, you know, the buyers are just switching.
Yeah, consolidation will take place.
It has to take place because that's too much.
But the funny thing is, on demand side, you have like DSPs only, media only for Digital Out of Home, which will pick up mobile as well, like Sage and Archer.
Yep.
And there will be some wide variety on that level coming from DV360. They are, I think, in the UK now doing the first
test.
Yeah, they're doing their first buy. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you know with which publisher they're doing that?
Decaux.
Okay, yeah, that's obvious.
On View.
So they integrated with View or going to test with View.
Yeah, so it's quite to be expected that they will move over to the Netherlands as well, if they're on the same system.
As the second test, maybe.
Yeah, and they could do cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam. Is there any movement you see, Leon, on supply side, on publisher level? Because we've seen the movements of Ocean, but that was pre-corona.
Mm-hmm.
And the movements of Ocean was more to integrate Scandinavian, German market as well, and in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Anything else which you expect?
Well, what you see is the petrol networks are going to be together to merge.
Yeah.
In the public transport is the same.
Yeah.
As you see, from my perspective, we have the metros in Amsterdam and Rotterdam.
Yeah.
But the campaigns will all.
So on campaign level you see integration.
Yeah.
Okay, so media to media.
Yeah, so like the public transport of the Netherlands, the NS, Nationale Spoorwegen.
Yeah.
And our network are going to in one campaign.
Yeah, because online it's possible now, because of the buying consoles.
Yeah, it's in the same console.
Yeah. And what about food retail? Albert Heijn in our local market, Ahold.
Yeah, a lot of retailers are going to have a digital screen now in the supermarkets.
Because of Corona.
Well, you know, the highest footfall and the only sure footfall has been at
food.
Has been at supermarkets, you know, so because they have been open throughout the 2020, and so you know it's the logical one, and they've been, you know, Ahold, Albert Heijn on this side has been lucky enough to be digitized right before Corona hit. Yeah. You know, any conspiracy thinkers there would but you know, that's so they were at the right time at the right place with almost the right set of tools. So that's been good for them, and you see that shift also throughout other countries. You know, the retail has
grown
supermarket here. Retail they haven't had a bad year. You know, so they've
good year.
Exactly. So they've also have the resources to think and allocate digital assets to monetize better at their site, so they're getting more appreciation for the value of their location.
But the buying from digital buyers as well is growing on supermarket locations. So if you look at what we have to offer from Digital Out of Holland, from that perspective, I've been hearing quite a lot that people were saying with MyAdbooker, because now MyAdbooker has been releasing Quantum Loop as well as their player software. The famous sentence I hear is, wow, there is life after BroadSign. Whereas quite some domination at that level. And we have been early users as well of BroadSign for many years. Yep. But we've seen in 2013 that we would hit the roof of everything you could do with that platform. Mm-hmm. We were basically forced to develop MyAdbooker. What would be the big difference on SSP level between the several SSPs in the market. So you have Hivestack, you have Broadsign, you have MyAdbooker. Sebastian, what's your opinion?
I'll give you a very.
Everyone?
I'll try to give you the most biased opinion I can. No, I think there's different levels, right? So if you look at a Broadsign tooling, they have a tooling stack and they're adding programmatic to it. So that's an enrichment, but it stays with the existing flow of a publisher.
It's traditional digital.
It's not a focus on programmatic.
Yeah, traditional out of home plus programmatic. That's what you're saying.
That's kind of what I'm saying. So, and then if we look at our solution for Quantum Loop is full programmatic, in the sense that every position is programmatic. So the thought process of the system is always programmatic, always flexible. So that's a different approach.
And it's web-based.
So it's programmatic first in that sense. And then if you look at the Hivestack solution, that's coming from the hybrid model where they need to integrate on top of an existing signage solution. So that's something like MyAdbooker, that's what we did first, But now, to get full utilization of your network, to start really getting into yield optimization, start really using the features that are available from programmatic, to use them as a publisher yourself. For us, it was the most logical solution to create our own signage solution from that programmatic perspective.
What happened with the feature-rich SSP categorization versus the trading-only SSP? The difference between that, because if you look at, in my opinion, MyAdbooker and Broadsign and Hivestack, they just pass on the trade towards the trading platform.
Yeah, because Broadsign runs from the expectation that the optimization is already done on the Broadsign player level. So that's not a real time optimization, but it's it's scheduling in that sense.
It's just pushing the video to the network,
and then it's the trade towards opening up to DSPs, etc. But that's always the underestimation that people have from activating programmatic is you still need to do the sale, of course. So that's something that you mustn't forget.
Yeah. So basically, you have moved the scheduling of the network from IT to sales.
Yeah.
That's basically.
Well, so that's what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah, to the sales department. Or no, I think what we've done, we moved it to the advertiser.
The scheduling, definitely. But we also use it for
campaign management.
But what we see on utilization for the clients that we have is that they also treat their internal buyers as buyers, right? So sales at CSDM is a buyer of the network.
Yeah.
Whereas
we
traffic
plan our own campaigns
with managing concessions is also a buyer within the CSDM, and we see that same shift at Shell. How they're using our software is that they have their bakery promotions. That bakery team uses the tooling as campaign tooling but the bakery is treated as an advertiser. The same with fuels is treated as an advertiser. So I think that's the change in perspective and in mentality and from software approach.
If you look at that perspective, what you usually see is there's a difference between execution only. So there is a demand, you have a campaign, it needs to be scheduled, it's executed, that's it. Or you have the brains behind it to do the smart scheduling and the smart playout and to see if your campaign would reach the level of views and impressions you would love to have. How would that work in difference between the systems? Because I hear different stories on that, and that really is depending on what the information is the SSP could give back to the DSP, or is that completely up to the DSP?
It's very much up to the DSP. If you look from there's a clear difference. There's supply and demand, right? Very clear difference.
Really?
Supply, the only reason for supply to open up is because supply is managing supply, so they want to maximize the yield of their inventory, while the demand side should optimize the buy. So I think that's why the perspective from a buyer should be separated, and is separated because it's the interest of the buyer, and that leaves the DSPs with the responsibility to help in optimization, to focus on data activation, because that's what their advertiser needs.
So, lastly, and then we have new additions to cover more, where I hope the listeners on our podcast would issue some questions to the CSDM Instagram account. What kind of DSP would you like to be connected to in the near future?
Well, the logical one would be DV360 from a perspective of, gaining the major players.
But that's a difficult one.
Well, it shouldn't be, because that's the thing. We've evolved the market so far. I've been speaking to Google since
web-based solution, right?
Well, apart from having a web-based, every programmatic network, regardless if they're using our software or not, is web-based.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, not completely, because
not completely, but the ad slot is web-based. So
just the ad slot, but DV360 does not allow other SSPs to be connected to the DSP. They would have their workaround.
They want their SDK involved and all that kind of stuff, but that doesn't mean that the protocol has been developed. The impression multipliers have been accepted in the market. So the technology is mature enough for
so you would expect
DV360 to connect.
You would expect DV360 to be connected this year?
But they should, yeah.
Okay.
I hope so.
Well, let's leave it at that then. Thank you very much for listening this first edition of Digital Out of Holland. And again, I would love it to have you submit some questions to us on Instagram or any topics to cover. And we'll hope to hear you soon again on our next edition of Digital Out of Holland. Thank you and be safe.
This was the podcast of CS Digital Media. The broadcast can be heard on CSDM Online, the social media channels of CS Digital Media, but also on 9 audio platforms, including iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. The CSDM podcast is a production of CS Digital Media. The mix and master are provided by Young Ruby Music.